So, Apex Legends is now officially out of its infancy and Season 1, The Wild Frontier, is now available. Along with Season 1 is now of course the Battle Pass, which lets you earn more rewards like cosmetics and various other things as you play Apex Legends. I hope you like camo. But by far the most exciting part of the new season is the release of the first new character for Apex Legends, Octane, the high-speed daredevil. Well, how is Octane, you ask? Well, I'm JinJinx, one of the Monster Hunter Math and now Apex Math guys. And, well, this is my first impressions of Octane after having played him for a few hours. And don't worry, this isn't just an opinion piece. There will be math. At least as much as I can actually fit into a video about Octane. So, how is Octane? Well, he's very... Y'all ready for this? I'm inting! Never mind.
I don't have shield. There's one lifeline down here.
Where's my gun? Where's my gun? I can't pull my gun out! What the fuck? Fun. Actually, very is an understatement. He is extremely fun. Putting aside for a moment his actual in-game mechanics, his voice lines, his animations, all of it just really conveys this personality of this adrenaline junkie, insane daredevil. And by taking a first-person seat and actually playing through his eyes, it's kind of hard not to have fun like he is constantly having.
I like the wind in my hair, bugs in my teeth, and long walks off a high cliff.
And instead of contradicting that fantasy, his mechanics in-game inform it and add to it, really making you feel like you're playing this crazy motherfucker who's just chasing his next thrill in this blood sport. Which, to be fair, I do think is a thing that Respawn has done a phenomenal job in general of, conveying personality in the characters. Anyway, let's move on to the actual mechanics of Octane. Keep in mind that outside of the actual patch notes, most of the numbers I am giving you are from my in-game testing. And considering how Octane has been a little bit...
There's one lifeline down here.
Where's my gun? Buggy. Take these numbers with a grain of salt. So first off is his passive, Swift Mend. According to the official patch notes, while not taking damage, Octane restores 1 health every 2 seconds. And yes, taking damage to shields does count as damage. Now, after you take damage, there is a timer until this passive kicks in. But I will be completely honest, I am not 100% sure what this timer is. Looking through all of my footage, it's been a little bit variable. But there are 2 things about the timer I am certain of. A, it's around 6 seconds or so after you take an instance of damage before the passive can kick in again. I say around 6 seconds because after looking through a lot of clips of it, it's always plus or minus a little bit. But there's a likely rounding errors in the engine. And B, your tactical does count as a source of damage for this. This is actually part of the reason why it was so difficult for me to find relevant data on how long the timer is. Because if I'm getting shot at, I'm probably using my tactical ability to get the f*** out. Or, you know, to push really hard and aggressively and die. Speaking of his tactical, let's talk about that next. This is what really defines Octane. His tactical ability is Cocai Stim. It's Stim. According to the patch notes, it causes him to move 30% faster for 6 seconds. It costs health to use, and while active, Octane is less affected by attacks that cause slowdown, with a 2-second recharge. Yes, that's right, 2 seconds. More on that in a second. So as a reference point, Bangalore's passive used to give her a 40%, but it now gives her a 30% movement speed boost. And Octane's gives that same 30% for 6 whole seconds. That is huge. If as a player you already have good strafing movement, it is so hard to hit you when you're playing Octane. I'm sure many of you still have recurring nightmares about 1v1ing Bangalores with a passive active and not landing a shot on them and feeling like you're a potato. Right guys? Yeah? Not just me? In Apex Legends tradition, it does have quite a few balances in place as well. One of them being that it takes up a lot of your screen when you are stimming and when you have stim active. It also has this kind of glowing vignette around it that does obstruct quite a bit on the edges of your screen. And it does have this constant sound in the background while you're using it because, I mean, you're on Stims, which can frankly make it kind of difficult to hear footsteps. Which is actually pretty beautifully in character because you move really fast because you're on Stims, but your awareness is just shot. Now it does cost health to use, which is 10 health. This 10 health stays consistent regardless of the HP you have left. And no, it cannot kill you. It will always leave you with a tiny sliver of health even if you're at 1 HP. There's also an interesting interaction where your passive gets a tiny bit stronger when you're at very, very low health. My guess is this is to stop the stim from killing you when you use it. You also get lowered slow effects while you're on your stim. These are things like Caustic's Gas, Gibraltar or Bangalore odds, or the good old Oxstar. I'm not sure if this slow reduction also stacks with the movement speed bonus, but either way you do get to move faster through those things. Considering this guy is likely going to be a meta choice, this does make Caustic even worse off than he was before. Why respawn? And of course it has a 2-second cooldown. This is absolutely mental. These 2 seconds are just long enough for you to get 1 tick out of your passive, meaning that while you are using stims, you'll only be losing 9 health per rotation. Yay. Now let's do a little bit of math on the stim, and I do mean a little bit, there's only so much math you can really do. So first off, if you want to heal to max in between each of your stims, you do have to wait 20 seconds in between each one. Which means at max, if you want to stay topped off, it has a 20-second cooldown effectively. Which is around the same cooldown you expect out of pretty much any other tactical in the game. If you're going around looting but you're not sure when a new fight may break out at any moment, this is probably about how fast you want to use it. If you use it faster, you risk having lower health when a fight actually breaks out, which could be the difference between winning a fight or not. It also has the bonus of not having you just zip around looting faster than anyone on your team can possibly do and getting so far ahead of them that you end up in a 1v3 situation when you run across a team. Yes, looting fast and rotating to new locations quickly is extremely important, especially if you want to have positional advantage over other teams. But not when you're moving 30% faster every 6 out of 8 seconds than your teammates and you're leaving them behind and you're by yourself. That being said, spamming the absolute shit out of this when you first drop in a hot area and there's 4 other teams all trying to find a gun means you can get a gun faster. And in theory, because you are much faster than them, you can win a punch fight more easily, although you kind of have to get used to hitting things with the movement speed steroid. But all of the passive play during looting is the boring part. Let's talk about combat. Now I want to say you should just be spamming stim off of cooldown every single chance you can during combat, but there is an important question to ask yourself before you pop a stim. Will using this stim stop me from taking 10 more damage in the next 6 seconds? If the answer is yes, go ahead and cut yourself a line of that stim. It's stim. Whether it is because you have a better position and will take less damage, whether it's because you can get to cover faster, or whether it's because you can outflank your opponent, or whether it's simply because your AD strafing will make it harder for them to land shots. If you would take 10 less damage from bullets because you popped your stim, pop your stim. I don't care if you have 5 health, you pansy. If you would take 10 less damage from the stim, pop it. You can still shoot, reload, switch weapons, throw grenades. Pretty much the only thing you can't do while stimming is throwing your ultimate, and I'm still not 100% sure if that's intentional or not, it might be a bug. But either way, this is math at its simplest. The cost of stimming is 10 health, meaning if you choose not to stim instead, all you gain from it is 10 health. If you stim and get hit by even 1 less bullet, you have come out ahead in the exchange. And believe me, they will probably miss a lot more than just 1 bullet on you. Realistically, if you ask yourself this question, it's most of the time you will take at least 1 less bullet by stimming. 30% extra move speed is no joke. But outside of combat, I do personally think it's a bit of a mistake to spam it too much since you're intentionally putting yourself at a disadvantage for no gain. So yeah, spam it in combat because it's so good, and use it every 20 seconds outside of combat. Any more than that, and you're risking having too low a health when you actually get into a fight. Now you may think, 10 health, what's the big deal? But the thing is, it's not just 10 health. Most likely you will be spending all of combat stimming yourself like crazy. This means you're losing 9 health every single time you stim yourself, assuming you're not getting shot while you stim, which is unlikely. So more realistically, you're losing 10 health every single time you stim. This means if you have stimmed twice while you were looting around and get into a fight, the first time you stim in combat, you're now at 180 health. Assuming you have level 3 shields, of course. 180 health is a very important breakpoint because that means 4 wingman body shots will kill you. 4 as opposed to 5. Now of course it's a lot harder to hit you because you have the 30% movement speed steroid. But the wingman is such a prevalent weapon in this game because it's frankly the best gun in the game and many highly skilled players use it. 1 extra shot is a really big deal when it comes to a weapon like the wingman, which has a high damage per shot. It also means that if you have a purple helmet and a Kraber gets a headshot on you, you still die. In case you didn't know, that headshot is 187 damage. So if you had been busy using your stim to loot up all of those extra shotgun shells you will never use, you would not have died to that Kraber headshot. There are a lot of breakpoints in this game that are built around being under 190 so that when you get hit by it, you are left with a tiny sliver of health. I mean, think about all the times you fought someone with purple armor and then you run out of ammo in your clip and go down and they're literally one bullet away from dying. Which leads to some really clutch and tense fights, which is really smart game design. But it also does mean if you've burned your health away stimming while you were looting earlier, you're going to be meeting some of these breakpoints when you actually get into a fight. I could go on and on about all the different breakpoints and how many stims per fight will let you hit different ones, etc, but all of that's theoretical gibbery, Drew, and doesn't really matter too much practically speaking. Practically speaking, what does matter is that being below 190 health is much more dangerous than being above it. And as I mentioned earlier, it is almost always better to be popping stims during combat than not, but you do want to prolong that window you are not below that 190 breakpoint as long as you possibly can. Before we talk about the ultimate, I do want to mention how I think the 2-second cooldown is a little insane. I mean, yes, it does cost health to use, but you are taking a lot less damage because of the increased move speed. 2 seconds literally makes it completely spammable during fights. It's 6 out of every 8 seconds, that's 75% of the fight you are moving around like a speedy maniac. And if you are smart about how you use that movement and don't just int into enemies constantly, oh boy is this guy strong. I mean, part of the reason Bangalore is considered so powerful and arguably the best character in the game is because she has a movement speed steroid every few seconds. That being said, you do have to learn how to aim with the increased movement. It throws my tracking off by a lot personally. And I cannot hit a shotgun shot when I'm stimming. But the big difference between Octane and Bangalore is that you get to trigger it whenever you want to. And because you'll most likely be spamming it constantly in fights, this means your aim will be able to adjust to it very quickly. Part of the reason I don't like playing Bangalore very much personally is because whenever my passive triggers, it surprises me and throws off my aim. With Octane, this isn't really an issue. Alright, let's finally talk about the ultimate ability, Jump Pad. You've probably noticed quite a few of these jump pads around, like outside of Market for example. Well, that's because Respawn threw them in before this character was released, kind of as a teaser. The cooldown on it is 90 seconds, which is the fastest in the game, on par with Pathfinder, one of my other favorite characters. Similar to zip lines, it becomes an environmental object that anyone, including enemies, can use. And no, it cannot block doors, but you can throw it very far. Unlike the zipline, it doesn't quite have that much range or height to it. It's plenty to reach the top of most buildings, but unlike Pathfinder's zipline, you can't just latch it onto the top of a giant rock and just snipe people's heads off. However, it does have the benefit of being omnidirectional. This means whatever direction you are moving in when you hit the jump pad, you will fling forward at. This is an important thing to remember because yes, you can air strafe in Apex, but it's very weak, so you want to make sure you line up your jump properly before you take it. And unlike a zipline, you don't interact with it, you simply step onto it. This means if anyone, including enemies, steps into it, they will get launched forward and into the air. So yes, potentially you can use it as a trap for enemy teams, although I've yet to be successful with that strategy. And no, it does not carry your momentum forward, so using your stim before you run into it does not increase your jump distance. I think. Again, the dude's really buggy, maybe it's supposed to, but in my testing it hasn't so far. One thing you do have to keep in mind is that if your opponents have good aim, this isn't really necessarily a good escape method. Similar to a regular jump, it puts you in a fairly predictable movement. People with good aim will simply be able to track you while mid-air and shoot you down. This is assuming they can see you and expect it. You can definitely use the flank people. It's a very fun ultimate filled with a lot of strategic utility, but it's frankly still too early to discuss much in terms of strategies that will be effective with it. Personally, I still want to trick someone into stepping onto it and shooting them while they're flying mid-air, but I haven't gotten it to work yet. Oh, and you can bounce grenades, Bangalore ults, and probably also Gibraltar ults off of it for some extra distance. Neato. Finally, let's talk about his hitbox and his animations. I haven't actually had the chance to map his hitbox yet, and I'm sure someone in the Apex community will within a few hours. But from what I've seen so far, he's pretty small. I'm not sure if he's quite Wraith level hitbox, but he's definitely down there. And his animations are also a little bit weird as well, which will make it quite hard to hit him if he has good movement. Both of which kind of surprised me. I expected him to be on the bigger side of hitboxes simply to balance off his mobility. I mean, that's the reason why Pathfinder is so big. I may do some more investigation into both of these things for a future video, but for now, I'm just surprised that he's fairly small. Overall, A+, 10 out of 10, would dare the devil again. He's honestly insanely strong and also really fun to play, so I would recommend picking him up. He's definitely stronger than Caustic and Mirage. In my opinion, more fun too, but that's subjective. So definitely pick him up if you have the legend tokens, or hell, use Apex coins. Respawn definitely deserves the money. Alright, that about does it, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video. Like the video if you enjoyed it and if you learned something new. Let me know what you thought of the video in the comments. We are trying out some new things right now. If you'd like to meet some people to play Apex, God Eater 3, Monster Hunter World, or a bunch of different games with, check out our Discord server, the Mathalos Nest. I do occasionally stream on YouTube, but Tuna does stream every day on Twitch. Definitely go check him out and show him some love. He just got some new juicy emotes, so definitely check him out. And if you'd like to support Tuna and I and what we do and help keep the channel alive, be sure to check out our Patreon. We recently started polling our patrons in order to figure out which video guides to do next. And an especially big thank you to Ven, Heike, Checklim, Yoshi Cho, John Cohen, Ken Alvarez, Robin, Bram Orsel, Lightweight, Skylar Yang, Lupin, Mongus, Lord Sidone, and Jamie. Thank you so much, guys. You seriously keep this channel alive and I cannot be more appreciative. I know I'm just a math-crunching robot, but thank you. Beep boop. As always, guys, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell if you'd like to see our newest videos the moment they come out. We have a lot of videos in store for you guys, so definitely check them out. Happy Daring Devils, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!
There's one lifeline down here.
Where's my gun?